beautiful, beautiful Mass. So last weekend, I was reinvigorated. And that's I was reinvigorated to the American dream last weekend. That you can be Polish and Mexican and come over here from different countries generations ago and come into your community and build a church, work in the steel mills, build Legion halls, work at the local businesses, be a part of the community. And I'm never prouder to be of Polish and Mexican descent in the city of East Chicago. And then to be able to enjoy it. I talked to Rick Reifa during the event last week, Friday. And I was talking with other people. And congratulations to Michael Veltieta. He knocked it out of the park. He sang the national anthem and also sang some Spanish songs. It was awesome. But would you dare say 10 years ago or 15 years ago, the town of Griffith probably would not be celebrating the fact that there's a large Hispanic population? That's probably fair to state. And as you move forward in the year 2025, that you are celebrating the fact that you have a very diverse community. And it was just awesome. So special thanks to the town of Griffith for what they did. Special thanks to St. Stanislaus for having many generations come together and celebrate the last Mass with the bishop, with many generations. And you know that it's good when you walk out and you feel better. I would dare say this. This may be a leap of faith. I don't think the Bears win on Sunday unless it was the 125th anniversary of St. Stanislaus. What do you think, Lynette? The Bears probably take it in the shorts against the Cowboys if it wasn't the 125th anniversary of St. Stanislaus.
I don't know anything about sports. They can't help you there.
I'm just being facetious. The Bears, what a day. You go with many generations, and then we celebrated my wife's birthday last weekend on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And I'm just being funny a little bit that the Bears, they played almost a perfect game. We'll find out this weekend how good they are, if they're as good as we think they are, or if the Dallas Cowboys. So here's the deal with the Bears. Were they playing against the team to figure out who's going to have the first pick of next year's draft, which means the worst two teams are playing against each other? Or are they better than we think and they're going to put together a decent season? We don't know yet. We'll find out this weekend. So any way you look at it, we appreciate it. Before we take our first break, it is 6:29, I do want to just give a moment of silence. We lost a couple 1987 grads, people my age. Dr. Mike Autry was a Munster grad, and Deanne Romarowitz. Two very smart people. Now, I knew both of them. I wasn't real close. I just know one thing about both of those two individuals. They were very, very smart, as was many people in the class of 87, as I found out, both at Munster High School and both at Bishop Noel. So I was talking when we were texting, my buddy and I, Chris Shaver, who we were very, very close during the formative years, and he's been out in California for a lot of years, that at our age now, and we're turning 57, that when you're hearing about these things, it's not that people are calling and saying they're having kids or they're getting married. When you say, hey, did you hear about so-and-so, pretty much it means that they died. So live each and every day like it's your last, and just a small moment of silence for those two individuals. All righty, we'll take a short break, and when we come back, we'll get into it. 219-845-1100. You can chime in on, was there something that happened, I guess, overnight? Someone told me that the former FBI, top FBI Comey has been indicted. Also, it's official. NIPSCO got what they wanted. We could talk about that. Also, I do want to say this before we go to break. Jesse Gomez lost his nephew. I want to talk about this. The celebration of life, or his actually funeral services before we celebrate his life. It says funeral services for Michael Gomez will be held on Monday, September 29th, from 4 to 8 at Fife Funeral Home in East Chicago. So a young man, I would like to say, I think that's Manny's son, his brother Manny's son, and passed away, unfortunately, at an early age. So funeral services will be held at Fife Funeral from 4 to 8 on this Monday. Alrighty, we'll take a short break, and when we come back, we'll reset, open up the phone lines at 219-845-1100, talk about some of the issues of the day, and we'll turn it up a little bit because it's Friday. And when it's Friday, we rock and roll on WJOB, 1230 AM, 104.7 FM from the beautiful Strachan Van Til Food Market Studios. Welcome back, everybody. Excuse me, it's 6:35. Don't forget this is a sponsored program. Kusiak Construction, 219-923-3007. Roofing, fascia, soffit, siding, replacement windows, decks, everything from the foundation up. This time of year, we're still outside. We're inside, too. We do all kinds of work. But this time of year, we like to be outside because before you know it, it'll be cold and everyone will be getting inside doing all the things like bathrooms, kitchens, basement remodels, things like that. If you are looking at getting a project done, we are locally owned and operated. We give back to the community. It's something that I pride myself on as being a CEO, and our company prides ourselves on as we are a sponsor of the program right after us, Veterans Views. We've also given to many of the local communities and things that we believe in, okay? And when we decide what we're going to do with our hard-earned cash and treasure, we make sure that those organizations share the values that our organization holds. And we're big proponents of veterans. We're also big proponents of education, as we've made a donation. I want to make sure we send that check to the BBB. Also, we have been sponsors. Special thanks to Jeff Colby and his group for the Hammond Foundation that is raising money and giving scholarship money. We've been a part of that for years. So those are the type of things that we like to do. 219-845-1100. Let me show you what, if you want to talk about why we have problems in this country between the divide. I just swiped over one time on my phone. Here's the 3 stories of the day. Tell me if they're not leading stories. This is by NBC News. Former FBI Director James Comey indicted following pressure from Trump. BuzzFeed. Stephen Colbert mocks Trump's UN escalator fiasco. Now everyone's saying the same thing. Apple News. How pressure from Trump led to James Comey's indictment. Those aren't leading stories. So, of course there was pressure from the President of the United States. It happens all the time. The Justice Department is an arm of the presidency. You can tell yourself it's not. The intelligence service is an arm of the presidency. Don't you remember when Trump first got in office and Chuck Schumer said the intelligence community is going to take care of Trump? What's the first thing? Who is the FBI's building named after? J. Edgar Hoover. What's the first thing that J. Edgar Hoover did to every single president during his 40 years as being in charge of the FBI? He got dirt on them so that he could use it to his advantage and stay in power, all the way from FDR all the way to JFK. So the fact that, oh my gosh, they're using the FBI to do their work, their dirty work. JFK put his brother as the Attorney General. Eric Holder couldn't do enough work for the Obama administration. Of course they're using this. It's a weapon. And I don't remember hearing all these people cry at the end of the first Trump administration when they were going after Trump, when they were going after all of his people that worked for him, all the people that were just doing their regular jobs. Do you remember when they were doxing them? They were basically telling companies that they would boycott them if they hired any of people that worked for the Trump administration. But that's okay. Now all of a sudden these people are crying like little babies. I've said this before. When you do something to someone and you normalize it, you better be ready for it because it's coming the other way. And I'll say the same thing to people that love that this is going on. When the Democrats take control again, and they will do the same thing. Now, James Comey's going to be okay. James Comey is a multi-millionaire, okay? He's going to get the best attorneys that there are. And at the end of the day, he's probably not going to get convicted. This is basically meant to cause him grief, embarrassment, and some money. But those people underneath him, you can ruin someone's life by putting them through this. But isn't it funny how when the Democrats when they went in and grabbed Roger Stone, Peter Navarro, some of the others, even Trump, CNN found out about that. It was leaked, and there's cameras, and they handcuff them. They pull them in the middle of the night. 20 FBI agents going to a guy like Roger Stone or Peter Navarro or in their 60s, like as if they're going to be some type of threat. Why didn't they do the same thing to Comey? They're saying they're going to let him hand himself in. And isn't it just real special that the FBI has a different set of rules when it comes to... So here's the deal. We used to have Indictment Friday, Kusiak and Reardon. And in my understanding, the wheel of indictment, my understanding is there's some consternation in the city of Gary. I got a little birdie in my ear telling me people are getting interviewed. And normally when there's FBI interviews, it's not a good thing. So, but do you remember that most of the people got in trouble for lying to the FBI? And then they get indicted. And then they go to jail. They go do summer school. Well, how is it when Andrew McCabe, who was assistant director to the FBI, lied on 4 separate occasions? Here's why. They don't call it a lie. You just change the name. So if you're an FBI agent, they call it lack of candor. So, Lynette, if your parents come to you and they said, we caught you in a lie, all you need to say to them is the following: I'm sorry, I didn't lie. It was a moment of lack of candor. And then, therefore, you won't get in trouble. And don't you remember when he was fired that the Democratic Party, because he was short of like 6 months of getting his pension, which is the rest of his life pension and health care, so he broke the law. He doesn't get indicted. And then you had Democratic Congress people saying, come work for me to get your final 6 months. So it is complete warfare between the Democrat and Republican Party. This is like the gladiator days. And the Democratic Party came after Trump and tried to kill him. I mean, I'm talking about kill his career. And they didn't do it. It's like a mafia movie. If you go after your adversary and you don't dismantle him, that's like back in the Roman days and all the different things like that. When you went after a family, it's like the Godfather. They went after the Corleone family to kill all the way down to the bottom because you have to get rid of them. If not, those people grow up and come back after you. You didn't kill Trump. Now he's coming after you. And then when the Trump administration is over, which it will happen, and the Democrats will get in power again, they're going to do the same thing. That's the way of the world. So I watch these talking heads at night try to talk themselves into circles how it's not hypocrisy. How, oh my gosh, I can't believe that the federal government, that they're weaponizing the Department of Justice. Oh, really? You can't believe that? You've never seen that before? This is foreign to you? Or is it only foreign to you because when it's your side going after the other side, then it's just law and order because those people broke the law. But when it's the other way around, I can't believe it. It's the end of democracy. It's the end of democracy because they're going after our people. They're going to. They're going to cost them tens of millions of dollars. Do you know how much those attorneys are per hour that deal with those cases? And the people that have the money, Comey's going to be fine. Comey is a multi-millionaire. It's the people underneath him that are going to get dragged in that can't afford the attorneys. So 219-845-1100. Let's go to the phone lines. Good morning. You're live in the air.
Cruz, how's it going?
It's going great.
Well, I think I learned a lesson out of all this.
Yes.
Don't shoot someone in the head and don't go assassinate their best friend because they might get a little bit pissed off at you. I mean.
Oh, they are bringing everybody in. And they are going to, look, he knows that it's probably not going to end in a conviction. But that's not what it's about.
No, it's about public humiliation, like they tried to do to him. And, that's what it's about,
And that's the world that we live in both sides. Here's the thing that politicians do that have been there forever. they learn the world of Washington, and they learn how to wield power. And if you notice when Trump won in 2016, Hillary Clinton and that group, the Clintons are political assassins, okay? They said, we lost, so what we're going to do is pay this guy back. And they did with Crossfire Hurricane, okay? That's what they did. And Trump even said it. Now, Trump lived in a world where he had to deal with the mafia, right, in New York.
Oh, yeah.
The mafia controlled the unions in New York. I mean, that's fair to state, correct?
Yep.
So to get anything built, you had to deal with mafias. And he had to deal with developers who, by the way, most of them are some of the worst individuals you'll ever meet.
Oh, especially in that city.
Okay?
Yeah.
They're the worst individuals you ever meet. So I love when he came in office and he said, man, I've dealt with mafia dudes. I've dealt with other developers who will cut your throat. He said, I used to think that those people were mean until I met these lifetime politicians like the Clintons and others who have been there forever. Those people will cut their own mother's throats to stay in power. So so what it's turned into is a gladiator game, and it's winner take all. They don't care about the life and times of us. They're not trying to improve our lives. It's a battle to knock out the other guy. And it doesn't matter what the means are. What's the saying? The end doesn't justify the means. They don't care. They're trying to kill the other side.
Oh yeah, no. These are the most. These are that whole town of Washington D.C. That it's the most snakiest people on the planet.
So here, did you see it, Lynette? We're going to see if you can over time. I want you to see if you can go online, and I don't know if we could play it, but there's a snippet of Charlemagne the God, and he's interviewing the lady that's running for governor in New Jersey. Did you see that snippet? Where
no, I really can't force myself to listen to someone that calls himself a god. I think that's kind of weird.
Well, I mean, hey, listen, if you're going to give yourself a name, Charlemagne the God. So
I guess.
So he's interviewing the Democratic nominee for governor of New Jersey. She was like a 6 or 8 year, maybe 10-year congressman. And they had a debate, and the Republican nominee said, you sit on the Armed Services Committee, which okays military spending, and said, you've made $7 million on stock trades that have to do with the military, and you were the one that either voted for or gave appropriations to those people. And you should see her, because I will give him credit. Regardless if it's Democrat or Republican, he will ask the question, and you should see her response. What do you mean? You don't know if you made $7 million? You don't know if you made $7 million. My financial advisor called me Tuesday night. I was at Inflatables. I think that's what it's called. Don't you live right around Inflatables? It's over there next to White Rhino. So
that's that bouncy place thing? Yeah.
So I have to walk out because my advisor calls me. And by the way, if you guys remember, I did tell you to buy Ford stock. I bought it at $9.88. He told me it was $11.23. I think I was up 23%, whatever it was. So he's telling me, and I got small money compared to $7 million. But I know when it's up. So you mean to tell me a congresswoman who's running for the governorship of New Jersey, she doesn't know if she's made $7 million? And she doesn't know if it was from trades that were. So I'm watching this Democratic congressman last night on one of the shows saying, well, we're getting to the bottom of the Epstein file. I'm all for that. I'm all for getting to the bottom of the Epstein files. I would say that if we want this to be bipartisan, which everybody loves that term, let's do the following. Let's make sure that all of the Epstein files come out, and then let's also make sure that every sitting congressperson gets to show what they were worth the day that they walked into Washington and what they're worth now and what stock trades they made that were involved with the companies that were directly involved with the legislation that they passed. Why don't we do that? Isn't that a compromise? So then what we can find out is the following, that they're all a bunch of scumbags, and that the whole thing that they're doing is about making money. And I've said this from the very beginning about the Epstein files. because I was lucky enough to go on one time a private plane. There is a thing called a manifest. It is an FAA rule. If you get on a plane, your name must be on the manifest. So Jeffrey Epstein, but here's the deal. Just because you went on his plane, what does that mean? Is this the world of McCarthyism? Is this the world of McCarthyism, that if you were on his plane, that automatically means that you were sleeping with underage women?
Exactly. And do you think if that Epstein thing came out today, do you think there would be any? I mean, do you think you'd even be able to believe it?
I think,
no matter what was in it.
This is me. I think that rich people, especially men, mostly white, but not all, do whatever they want to do because they can. And you have guys that fly to, I mean, I don't understand why they didn't fly to another country, because these people do this all the time. But the other thing is, which I think is, it was completely egregious to take underage girls, and I don't even know what was there. But I got a feeling that when you see that manifest, and it may be coming out, that you're going to see people at the highest level of all countries, of all parties, and you're going to see names like Trump. You're going to see names like Clinton. You're going to see names like Gates. You're going to see Prince Albert in a can. Okay? You're going to see the brother of the King of England.
Yeah, and I think that's reason number one that stuff ain't coming out. I mean, there's probably some pretty big, high political people in the U.S., that did some stuff, but I think that royal family is probably reason number one. And you know what? That again, everybody talks about this Epstein stuff. Does anybody have any facts? I hear rumors. I hear all kinds of rumors about Bill Clinton. I hear rumors about whoever, Prince Andrew and whatever. But does anybody have any facts? And I think the answer to that is no. There's a lot of gossip. So I kind of get sick of hearing about the whole Epstein thing, to tell you the truth.
The Epstein thing, to people that I talk to, is a diversion, and both parties have diversions because they don't want to talk about the following. We're $37 trillion in debt. We're the dumbest we've ever been. That goes off test scores throughout this entire country. We're the fattest that we've ever been. Okay? So when they sit and say that the reason that Trump got elected is because people are tired of what's going on in Washington. They wanted to blow it up. The reason they wanted to blow it up is, let's look at what the last 25, 30 years has done to this country for those people that have been in charge.
It's called decline.
We have overspent $37 trillion. Both parties have done that. You talk about the FDA and all this stuff about autism, and RFK is doing this and this and that. Your collective group with the FDA and the CDC and all that has us the fattest that we've ever been, the unhealthiest we've ever been. And then you want to talk about the Department of Education. Oh, we can't get rid of the Department of Education. We're the dumbest we've ever been. So let's look at the way you people have been doing things, because this is what happens in our lives, where you work every day. At the end of the year, you get a review, and your boss says, well, Terry, I've noticed that this is the end result of your work, and it's either an A, B, C, or D, or you're either going to get a 2 or 3% raise, or you're going to get spanked, and your boss is going to say, I'm going to give you need to improve on this, this, and this, and then they may give you one more year to do that. But in America, we put the same people in and keep the same parties in, and look at what they've created. I'm not making this up. Is anything that I'm saying incorrect? Have we ever been more in debt? 37. No. We're basically bankrupt. Have we ever been less healthy? No. Has our test scores ever been lower?
It's funny because I was talking to this with my wife. I think yesterday or the day before. We see this group of kids, and you could just tell they're just sluggish. I bet they were probably 10, 11, 12. I bet one of them couldn't put air in a bicycle tire. As a matter of fact, I'll guarantee you.
Don't you remember when we grew up? We're about the same age, or within a few years of each other. That I remember being in phys ed, even in a private school, that I forget what they called it, but you used to have to take a test to see how many push-ups you could do, how much sit-ups you could do, how many pull-ups you can do. And I think it was during the Obama administration, they said, well, that's not being fair. What's not being fair? Well, we need to lower the standards of that. Lower the standards of good health?
Do you think they even do the pledge allegiance in grade schools anymore?
I don't know. I'm not.
I don't either. I'd be very interested to know if they even do the Pledge of Allegiance anymore. I mean, it was every morning when I went to school. I wonder if they even still do it. I'll say they probably don't. It's probably
But this school, but these kids
anti-woke.
But here's you got to be fair now. The Republicans are turned into the woke world too now. We're going after Jimmy Kimmel. They're doing all. This is why I said that both parties are projectionists and hypocrites, because the world was coming to an end when the woke world was here. Now all of a sudden, when the Republicans are in charge, Jimmy Kimmel can't speak. This person can't speak. We have to go after these people. That's the same thing. It's just called something different. They just don't call it woke. Okay? The reality of it is this. We have turned into a world when those who are in charge get to take advantage of the other side. And they're going to do it because it feels good. And then when they're out of power, the other side's going to come back and do it to them because it feels good. And in the meantime, the American people are the ones that are suffering because we got a bunch of buffoons at the highest level of this government. Because, to be honest with you, with what's going on, would you tell your kids? It used to be when I was born, it was like a big deal to be a congressperson, or it was a big deal to work for your government. It was a big deal if you were a council person. It was a big deal because you were doing the people's work. I don't think that's the same now.
I would never persuade.
Go ahead.
I would never persuade anybody that I know or care about slightly to become a politician or get involved in politics.
Yeah, so that's a problem because at the end of the day, you do need people to do the job. I mean, look what happened. So I liken this to the defund the police. So the left wanted to defund the police. Now, what's hypocritical about this is that most areas, like the inner cities, what do they need the most? Police. So when you're defunding the police, you're not defunding the police where I live. I live in Cherville. I want more police. If they ask me for an extra percent or to give a little bit more of my Lake County option income tax to police, I would say yes. So you're really defunding the police in the area that need police the most.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, you're not defunding the police; you're defunding the community. I mean,
my question to you is: how has that worked when you defunded the police? How has it worked in Illinois, in Chicago, when you're supposed to have a minimum of 13 or 14,000 police officers and you're down to 11?
Well, there's nothing wrong with Chicago and Illinois. No, come on.
So
there's nothing wrong.
So Terry, thanks a lot. Keep listening.
Have a good one.
659-219-845-1100. Let's take a few more calls, and we're going to take a break. Don't forget, at 7:30, we're going to talk about the American Dream, which will be turned into a podcast. We'll have Jarko Kork talking about the unveiling of a poster that includes his family, the history of his family. And this is what I've been talking about since I've been on these airs for 23 years. This country is about what you can do, what you can earn, what you can become. It's not fair. Life's not fair. But here's the difference between don't turn your kids into victims. You're doing them no good. You're not a victim. You live in the greatest country in the world. Anybody can come from anywhere and become the President of the United States of America. How about a multiracial black kid that was brought up in Nebraska and then Hawaii and then came to Illinois, got his ass whooped by Bobby Rush, got beat 2-1 when he ran for Congress, and the black community said he's not black enough. Then he ends up becoming senator, and his name is Barack Hussein Obama, and 7 years after 9/11 becomes the President of the United States of America. You tell me at 219-845-1100 that could happen in any country in the world. It cannot. It can happen in this country because that's the American dream. And whether you like him or dislike him, that was an enormous, enormous accomplishment. And conversely, on the Republican side, whether you like Trump or dislike Trump, here's the reality of it. Trump may not have run for president if it were not for the correspondence dinner where Barack Obama makes a joke of Trump running for president. And what happens a few years later? He wins. And then what happens after he almost goes to jail? He wins. Is that not the American dream? Can you do that in Cuba? Can you do that in China? Can you do that in Russia? You can do that in the United States of America. 219-845-1100. Good morning, you're live in the air. Hola, ¿qué tal? ¿Dónde es la Pepe? Hello? Going once, going twice.
I guess not.
I guess not. Do we have anyone else?
Nope.
219-845-1100. Hello? Hola.
Hi, Dave. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning.
And to answer your question, no. That would never happen in any other country. I know it was kind of rhetorical, but I still have to answer the question.
Now, Dave, you're from Gary. I have a little birdie, and I'm not trying to start rumors because most of the time when a birdie goes in my ear, it's correct. I got a little birdie telling me that there's been interviews by individuals that are running the city of Gary. Normally, that's not good news.
I say it's good news.
Well, I mean,
How is Gary going to move? How's Gary going to move forward? Gary has to move forward. And you're talking about defunding the police.
Yes.
Contrary to what you hear from about 8 regular callers on the station, Gary has requested and received tens of thousands of dollars from Congressman Bervan for the new command center, tens of thousands of dollars for new police cruisers and LPRs and shot spotter cameras, tens of thousands of dollars in grant money for new fire trucks. And I know it doesn't sound like a big deal, but Gary now has a code enforcement officer for every district and also snow removal equipment for every district. Now, I know that's normal for most communities.
Just think about what you're saying. Just think about what you're saying there. You're telling me Gary didn't have that.
That's right.
So a community that had, now it's down to 70. Let's just say over the last 20 years they were
66.
It's down to 66,000. Let's say it used to be 80. So you're telling me that the current administration, not current, previous administrations allowed the city of Gary to get to the point where they didn't have what you're saying?
Absolutely. Let's just say the administrations over the last 50 years. Let's just not pigeonhole, the last 8 years or 10 years. It's, and I'm glad they received that grant money because now the spigot has been turned off. So we're really fortunate. But there is no defunding police and first responders in Gary. They are scratching and clawing for revenue to increase the size of the police department, to increase the size of the fire department, code enforcement, animal control. It's just coming up to the point that the water it's lowering. Now it's just under our chin.
Now,
and the water
what's
is
going to happen, though, is
very slowly going down.
SB1, Dave, is not going to be.
Oh my God!
SB1 is not going to be helpful to the local municipalities. SB1 is forced consolidation.
It is.
So listen to those people on both parties. SB1, which was passed this year, which basically says how much money the communities can raise, right? Give or take,
right.
is forced.
That's exactly it.
Forced consolidation. And if you look back, going all the way back to the governor, Mitch Daniels, who I thought did a great job at Purdue University. My oldest daughter, went there, and I appreciate the fact that he made the pledge that tuition was not going to go up. It did not go up during his tenure. And, in fact, by all metrics, if you go down to West Lafayette, if you haven't been in West Lafayette in 10 years, you will not recognize it. What he has done there.
I was down there last year for my first Purdue game. Never went to a Purdue game, and Kathy's a Purdue graduate. And she's like, wow, there's a 20-story condo building where this place used to be, and everything. There's a couple old halls left, but pretty much everything is. Again, I don't know the difference, but she was just amazed. And Jim Weissman kind of pointed out how it used to be versus how it is now. And he said, if I was down there 20 years ago versus today, it's unrecognizable.
But he was the one that led to the 1, 2, 3, and then it's really forced consolidation. So it's death by 1,000 cuts, because municipalities will never consolidate amongst themselves because people don't give away their own power. They just don't. So what will end up happening is when they're getting less and less and less and less, it will force those communities to start. It's already started happening. If you talk to some of the people in public works and some of the our fire departments and police departments, they're already starting to work together a little bit, because that never used to happen before. Now it's getting forced, and I think you're going to continue to see that, especially with less money. So this governor ran on it. He's a fiscal conservative, whether you like it or not, and he overwhelmingly. And we'll see what happens when it affects people, because he's got one more term if he decides to run. It's only been his first year. But you know how quickly time goes by. But for a community like Gary, who's trying to dig themselves out of a hole, they're going to be getting less money. And then also,
and didn't Mayor McDermott come out and say he's already went to his department heads and said, hey, here's a hiring freeze. He's kind of preempting. He sees the writing on the wall. You know, it goes back to be careful what you wish for, right? And you're right, it is forced consolidation. And, you know, it's been a supermajority in this state forever. Yes, we live in a Democratic enclave here in Lake County, but that is shrinking, right? And
do we need 17 different communities in such a small geographical area?
I don't know. But you're right. I mean, everyone kind of protects their own fiefdom. What is there, 77 different taxing entities?
So let me ask you a question.
All this is going to play out, but everyone's going to have to tighten their belt, from municipalities to cities to individuals.
Let me ask you a question. They say that, I know the people of St. John, Cherville, and Dyer, and they're all great people, and they're great communities to live in.
Mm-hmm.
I live in Cherville myself. But everyone says, well, oh my God, they can't do this. Well, how is it that you have Lake Central High School that takes kids from all three? So from an educational standpoint, you can have one high school that deals with all three communities, and it's been that way since I've been born. And everyone just says Lake Central is from all three communities, although the communities were nowhere built out as much 50 years ago as it is now.
Mm-hmm.
But a bus can come up and pick someone up from Dyer, Cherville, and St. John and take them to the same high school. And most people would say that Lake Central does a pretty damn good job of educating people. Is that a fair statement?
Superintendent Baracco does an amazing job.
In fact, we'll be having Larry on real soon. He wants to come on and talk about the devastation that's going to happen with SB1. So two things could be true at the same time. They could be doing a great job and also be pissed that they're getting money taken away from them. But how is it that Lake Central, from an education standpoint, can have kids that come from three different communities and they do a fabulous job, but you're telling me that if you put Cherville, Dyer, and St. John together from a civil city standpoint that they wouldn't be able to do that?
I don't know. You know, I've been saying for years that Dyer, because Dyer is a growing community. Dyer is starting to become landlocked, no different than Highland and Munster, right? I mean, they really need their own high school, because that's the farthest point north west. But I don't see that happening, and it's, you know.
Dave, you lived in Highland. You lived in Highland, and I lived in Munster. And I know those communities very well. I had my business in Highland for 15 years. I do lots of business in Highland. I do lots of business in Munster. I've lived in and out of Munster my entire life. You mean to tell me that you think people would notice a difference in the quality of their life if the town of Highland and the town of Munster combined?
That's most definitely an improvement. I mean, you look at smaller things. The fire work together, Highland and Munster. Different organizations are combined, Highland and Munster. I think it's one of those that makes sense, right?
And then I'd even go a step further. I'd go a step further. I think you could throw Griffith in there. I think that those three communities, it would be called the Ridge community. I think I drive around for a living all the time doing estimates, and sometimes I don't know if I'm in Munster. When I'm driving on Martha Street and I go into Highland, I don't know if I'm in Highland or Munster. You mean to tell me that you think living in the Meadows is different than living in the eastern part of Munster?
Oh no, it's seamless, right? I mean, the only thing separating them is the only thing separating them is the Schilling Ditch, right? I mean, that's you look at the homes on the west side. Look at the homes on the east side.
Is it Hartstitch?
Yeah, Hartditch. It's Schilling farther down off US 30. It's all the same creek, but it's interchangeable, and to throw Griffith in there, Griffith is. They've made some changes over the last 5 years, and I would have to see what that the town council would have to say about that.
Well, no one wants to give up their power. I mean, it's just the way that it is. No one wants to give up their power. Dave, thanks a lot. We got to take a break.
Thanks, Dave.
You're listening to WJOB, the Dave Kusiak Show. At 7:30, it's going to turn into a podcast. Hey, Mom, guess what? I'm on radio, and it's TV, and it's a podcast. Lynette, what do you think about that? We're going to be on TV. It's a podcast. I made it. I'm being facetious as always. That's what I am, if anything. You know what I'm saying? Yes. So we're going to take a short break. You'll get to know that about me. Some people like that quality. Other people have different terms for that, including my wife. She doesn't always think that that's the greatest quality that I have. But hey, it's who I am. And you could some people love me, some people hate me, but there's one thing that people can never say about me, that I'm not authentic.
I'm having fun.
So anyway, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're just a little bit away from the unveiling. I'm going to send this picture to you, Lynette, so that we can put it on the behind if we can. I don't know if you have that skill set yet. I know that it's difficult sometimes for me, changing technology here is what I like to say. If you don't like it, stick around, it'll change. So last Friday, there was the unveiling of the Lakeshore poster series, and it has come into what we call the American Dream. What is that? We'll get into it at 7:30. And I don't know if you can get more iconic. You're from the harbor, aren't you?
Yes.
So this poster is an unveiling of, I want to say, Deodore and Columbus Drive, which I think now is a Wendy's.
Yes.
Before it was a Wendy's, it used to be a service station. Okay? And right in the background, you see the mills. Right in the background, you see a Serbian church. If that is not the definition of what this region is about, I don't know what is. So we'll talk about that and much more. Stick around for more Dave Kusiak Show on WJOB, 1230 AM, 104.7 FM from the beautiful Strachan Van Til Food Market Studios.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the Dave Kusiak Show on WJOB 1230 AM, 104.7 FM on the Strack and Van Til studios.
We're gonna do all right. Let's do. Did we get 219 news now or no?
I don't think so.
All right, when we get it. Welcome back, everyone. I'll do a quick weather. Today is September 26th, Friday. Let me look at weather. Today should be a high of 79 and sunny. You're not going to see any rain for about a week. Today, high is 79, low of 54. Tomorrow, what a beautiful, beautiful weekend. If you didn't get an opportunity to do some of the things that you wanted to do, this is a perfect opportunity this weekend. Sunny all day on Sunday. It's going to peak at 83 Sunday. We'll watch the Bears win. It'll be about 100 degrees in Las Vegas, where they're going to be. And a lot of people that I know and a lot of people from Chicago look for a 50-50 split between Chicago Bears fans and Las Vegas Raider fans this weekend. Be sunny and 81 here. Monday, sunny and 83. Tuesday, sunny and high of 79. So that's a beautiful look at the next 4 or 5 days of weather. So let's shift gears here. Today, this is going to be the start of a podcast because whenever I have a guest, Adriana brings in, it's the start of the podcast. And we have with us Jarko Korek. We have an unveiling. So this was Jimmy Diedlow is walking in, the owner of said station, and it was about this time last week that he was going to first of all, good morning, Jarko. Let's do a sound check. Put that right in front, all the way in front of your mouth. Testing, 1, 2, 3, go ahead.
Does it move?
Yeah, there you go. I can hear you.
It's not moving. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear you?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
That's not just in your head. It's you. So look straight ahead, even though you're taught to when you talk to someone, you look. But we're on TV, so the camera's straight ahead, as you see. There's Jimmy Diedlow, and last week he almost gave away the secret, which was last week at this time. Maybe it was a little bit later. It was about 8:30. Jimmy came on, and we just had Rick Reif on, and he's like, "Let me highlight what's going on at the Visitors Authority." And that was big-time news for your family. Tell people what happened last Friday night at the Visitors Authority.
We unveiled a South Shore poster for my mom. It was a surprise. The process started a year ago, actually.
First of all, I'm sorry. I'm being remiss here. Introduce yourself first and give a little bit about yourself, then we'll get into that. Tell people who you are, your life story.
My name is Jarko Korek. I'm a third-generation owner of an auto repair business. I run it with my brother and my sister as well. We started in the harbor in 1967 with a gas station, and that has grown to multiple locations of Shell gas stations in the 70s and 80s into independent auto repair with towing, and now we still operate 2 of the auto repair shops.
How old are you?
31.
Where'd you go to school?
Munster High School.
So are you 2012?
Yes.
So class 2012. So I met your father a couple years ago just by chance. I went into Greg's place, and Greg's like, sit down with us. So I sit down, and your father's sitting at a table. We're having great conversation. We meet each other, and we're sitting with a very well-known and influential guy named Ray Sierra. I don't know if you know who Ray Sierra is, but that's the world of Greg and the world of Puerto Rican Frankie and Big Dan and your father and the harbor and that kind of thing, and have a great conversation. And then, in fact, they were both ready to leave, and we sat down and we enjoyed conversation. It was probably, I don't know, it's probably talking to him for an hour. And I'm like, what's your last name? And I go, are you Jarko's dad? Yes, I am. No, he's my son. You know what I'm saying? So he tells me this life story. He tells me how close he is with Greg Switkovich. They just met each other. They were best friends. And then I find out about this car center. And in fact, it comes full circle because I remember at this place here, and it's a bad thing for you guys because it didn't work out well, but we used to go and do a pre-production meeting at the place around the corner from the one you're running. And the guy that used to run it that was almost ran it in the ground bad memories for you guys. It's taken you 5 years to straighten that all up. Used to come in, and he used to be like, I run the Complete Car Center. And so then I brought that up to your dad. I'm like, you guys own that one? I go, didn't this one guy used to? He goes, don't bring that up. So it's kind of funny. You're my daughter's age. In fact, you were supposed to be in her quinceañera, but you guys were so successful in soccer that you ended up playing for what, semi-state or state?
Semi-state, yes.
Yeah. So it's funny that how that goes. And now, how old are you?
31.
And how long have you been running that?
9 years.
And you yourself are running the one in the Complete Car Center.
Yes, in Munster, and my brother operates the one in Lansing.
And for those people that don't understand how much work that is, it's an enormous amount of work and responsibility. And you were thrust into that because of the passing of your father, or you started that while he was still living?
While he was still living.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this segment, and this is turning into a podcast, is called The American Dream. So you started off saying that your grandfather came in. You're third generation Serbian, correct?
Yes.
So the poster that it started a year ago is about your family. Tell people how it started. Tell people what it meant for your grandfather to come to this country, what it meant for Serbian people to come to this country, what it meant for Serbian people to build two Serbian churches on the same block, or give or take, correct?
Yeah.
And how it all started with your family.
My family came over in 1967 when my dad was 10. The reason for that was that my grandpa was not a fan of communism, so they came here. He was a master mechanic in Yugoslavia, so when he came here, he got a job at a dealership, but he couldn't speak English or read it, so the guy who worked next to him, I don't know his last name, but I think everybody called him Little Joe at the dealer. He would just point to the part of the car that the customer had complained about, and my grandpa would fix it. He saved all his money, and he eventually got the Shell franchise, and from age. So we came in 67, and I know we had it before 70. I don't know if it was 68 or 69. But from that age of them having it, my dad worked with him every day after school. It was open from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m., so he'd get off school, and he would go work with my grandpa. From there, they lived 4 houses down in a 3-flat at the top, and then on the other side of that street, which was Diodor, the St. George Serbian Orthodox Church is there, which was like a pillar of the Serbian community in the harbor especially, and there was a ton of people who worked at the mills. So that was kind of their community. Both of my grandparents, my grandma who's still alive, and my grandpa who lived till 1997, they never really learned English. So that's how strong that community was in that area. You didn't really have to go outside of that to meet people. We kind of took care of each other. From there, my dad, you had to be 21 to get a Shell gas station franchise, but my dad had ran it so long with my grandpa, his dad, that he was the only one, I think, in the United States who was under 21 who had one. He was 19 years old when he got his first Shell franchise.
So say that again. Your father was 19 years old.
Yes, and he got a Shell franchise in his name. It was called Broncos Super Shell. I don't know if his first one was 165th and Calumet and Hammond or Sibley and Torrance and Cal City, but he got them one and then the other one within 2 years. From there, he started towing, and then right when my dad got his, the next year that I don't remember it, but the gas shortage.
Late 70s?
Yeah, that he had to deal with that. So right from being a teenager and having to deal with that right when you get your business going, from there he never really looked back. So by the early 80s, he had an auto repair shop in Burnham, and we've grown it since then.
So your grandfather never learned English, ends up running a service station, teaches your father about hard work. Your father, before age 21, owns his own Shell stations. He's taught you guys, obviously, about hard work. That is why this segment and this podcast is called The American Dream. Because your grandfather, not liking, was Tito in charge at that time in 67, or was that before Tito?
That was Tito.
So Tito was in charge, and for those people in the Serbian community, and I've grown up with a lot of Serbian people. In fact, George, everyone knows George Vesmar. George, we were at our bar about 6 months ago, and we're in the back. He's smoking a cigarette, I'm smoking a cigar, and he's talking, and he's talking to me like I'm Serbian, and I go, I'm not Serbian. He goes, what do you mean? I go, I'm Polish and Mexican. He goes, but you hang out with everyone that's Serbian. I go, I hang out with Puerto Rican Serbians. What do you mean? We get along. So he comes over and teaches hard work. When think about this. They come over here with nothing. He can't speak English. He gets his first store, teaches your dad how to work hard. And then now you're third generation and you and your brother and sister are running it. Is that not the American dream?
It definitely is.
And so when you guys tell people how this thing came up with unveiling. Tell people what the South Shore Series is and how it came about last weekend.
So the South Shore Series, in the 1920s, to increase ridership, they made a bunch of posters of things happening between South Bend and Chicago. And then they brought it back in the late 1997, I think it was. They brought the series back, and they would be sponsored by local people who wanted to get something made for somebody or just to signify something. There's gas station trucking, auto repair, the mill.
I want to say it was Mitch Moskovich, I think, was the one that was doing the portraits. If my memory holds true.
Could be.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So my brother actually bought a house in St. John, and as a gift, we got him one of the posters. And then from there, we kind of just kicked it around. My siblings and I were like, I wonder how you get one of these made. So bizarrely, like every box we had to check to get one made actually came through the shop, which was pretty cool. One of our customers, she ran at the Munster Performing Arts Center, she runs the store. So we brought them up because we bought them when she was working. And then she said, well, I can put you in touch with this person who approves the ideas. From there, another customer, Michael Chelich, who actually lived in my aunt's old house, he is the painter. And he came in, he gave his address, and my dad was like, that's my sister's old house. So they talked for a while, and I just remembered the name. And then somebody posted something about Facebook about something he had painted. So the next time he came in, I asked him, and then I asked about the South Shore posters specifically. He said, I did 2 a while back, but you have to set up a meeting and get it approved. So then we got a meeting. And then from there, when they approved the idea, we went to the harbor with Greg. He took us around. We took pictures of a lot of stuff that we wanted in there. And then we just had to keep the secret from Mom.
Think about how iconic it is. And I drove by it yesterday on Columbus. And I think it's a Wendy's now, isn't it?
Yes.
So, but behind it is your church. Behind it is the mill. Behind it is a Serbian community. But it was, all of that was a spirit that your people came and brought here. And many others. They came to work. Many of them because they were going to be persecuted. My understanding is there was a book or something. You were either with Tito or against them, and many of the Serbian community, many of the Chetniks and others that came over because they ran from him. And so I call this the American dream because if you work hard, and no one worked harder. They gave of their entire life for it to be better for their kid. Your dad gave his entire life to make it better for you guys. And when did you know how hard your dad worked? And did you know that it was different than just, say, the average person?
Yeah. He didn't come to a lot of my soccer games growing up on Saturdays because the shops were open. He made all the ones during the week and on Sundays, but not. So that was a little different. But I don't want to say he wasn't around a lot. He was, but he was getting home later. Or I would see him in the morning before he had left for work. And then when I was in college, he'd start having me do stuff in the summers, running parts, going to LSIP, anywhere that could get a job done on a Saturday because there's no deliveries. And that's where I kind of saw how much was going on from the day-to-day. And then he asked me to work with him for 1 year. My brother had already been working with him for 4 years. And then when I was with him for 1 year, that was a eye-opening experience for sure.
So let's, I don't want to bounce around, but I didn't finish with, it was a secret. Jimmy Dietlow almost gave it away. It didn't. How did it go last week? And I would have been there, but we were celebrating my wife's birthday in Griffith with 4 generations listening to mariachis. how did the night go, and how was the surprise to your mother? How'd she take it?
Oh, it was a great night. We kept the surprise under wraps, but when we got to the visitor center, my mom saw too many people that she recognized outside just mingling, so she was refusing to go inside. And then she thought my brother was getting engaged, which he did not. But when we got inside, we told her was that a customer who's a successful painter was doing a showing, and he asked us to get people to go. And then it said sponsored by Complete Car Center. And my sister got up to talk, and that's when my mom was like, what the hell's going on here? And then, she was in tears as soon as it got unveiled. But it was an unbelievable night. We had over, I think, about 150 people there. Again, all three generations, people who knew my grandpa, and then all the way to us, and even some of my friends who have kids were all there. So it was a really good night.
You're listening to Jarko Korik talk about the unveiling of his family's business, his father. There's the picture. All right. Look at that. If that doesn't bring tears, look at if that is not iconic for people that don't understand what the harbor is. Especially in the 60s and 70s and 80s, you have a family-owned gas station with the mill in the background, and just behind it is your church. And for those people that don't understand it, and it was bittersweet for me thinking about that. I was thinking along the same lines as your church. There was also another church. There was two churches within a block, Serbian churches. And we just went a couple weeks ago they have the once a year festival. So we go every year. But what happened, mostly Eastern Europeans came over here, and the first thing they did was build a church. And if you came over, the first thing you did was go to the church, because that was your people, and they sponsored you, and they were going to find a spot for you to live, and they were going to find a job for you. And we just closed St. Stan's 125 years, and that was Polish on the south side of East Chicago. There's a lot of Polish people right next to you guys, St. John Cantius and other communities. But what it did is it gave people think about this, they came all the way across the Atlantic. They didn't know the language, but their desire to do better for themselves and their family. Can you imagine being your age and doing that?
No.
I mean, think about that.
No.
And I'm not trying to take a shot at people that are 30 or 20. I think about this all the time. My grandmother came here at 13 years old and got on a boat by herself in 1935. It wasn't like the boats are like they are, the ships are like they are now. To think of your father saying, I'm getting away from communism, and now he's gone, your father's gone, and he looks back and the three of you guys are running this. It is the American dream. And as I've stated, it's with all the things that we have going on in this country, if you do what the Koriks did, if you do what the Didlos did, if you do what the Kusiaks did, if you do what the Camachos did, if you do what the Limoses did, what's your mother's maiden name?
Vukosev.
If you do what the Vukosovs did.
Very good.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That is it.
Yeah.
Hard work, determination. And he also educated you guys. Some of the people didn't even want their kids to go to school. They wanted their kids to go right in the business. I think that somewhere along the line from your grandfather to your father said, even if I bring him, he needs to be educated. Because he saw the business changing. It wasn't like when he first started.
No.
I mean, you understand how quickly I come in. I use you guys all the time. Jarko's on the phone. I mean, the technology has changed so much as opposed to just using a wrench, and the cars are so much more difficult. But the education that you received is allowing you and your brother and your sister to run the businesses. So 219-845-1100 if you have any questions for Jarko. How many hours a week do you work?
We're open 58 hours, but I'm probably there another 7 before and after.
See, that's funny that you say that, because that's 65. I used to have a saying that anyone could be self-employed. You can work any 65 hours of the week that you want. I used to say that, and I still mean it. You can be self-employed in this country. You can work any 65 hours a week that you want to. And guess what you get to do the next week? Work 65 hours. So going through this experience, how did it affect you?
It was humbling for sure. Mike did such a good job getting everything we asked into the painting. There's a lot of kind of Easter eggs for our family in there that other people might not know, but the truck that my brother's washing, that was my dad's tow truck. That was 24 hours in the 80s. He got rid of that because he had a family, and he's like, I can't work all the time. I work enough. Then the houses in the bottom, the brown house is the 3-flat that we lived in, but we had to enter on the side, and we lived at the top. And then the little red house was the first house that my grandpa bought in America. So that's cool in there. And then right behind it's the church my parents got married at. But last year I was able to go to former Yugoslavia where my parents are from, and I saw both of the houses that they grew up in.
How did they compare to what they bought in the United States of America?
My mom's was pretty nice, actually. They had a bar, it's called the Kafana, built into it, but it was kind of on the main drag, and it had a nice view. But my dad's was up in the mountains, and there's no running water, there's no power, and it's up a hill, there's no road. But what he used to do, once he made it here, he would actually fly one of his cars on a plane over there, and he didn't care. He would drive it up the mountain to show everybody.
So say that again, because right down the street from the service station, my mother was born, and the house that they had did not have, you said no running water.
Yeah.
Okay. And the bathrooms were outside, outhouses, and this isn't 100 years ago, and that was not uncommon.
Yeah.
That people came over, and I always say that if it's not for hard work, think about that. It wasn't 100 years ago.
No.
That people did that, and I question if the young generation has the tenacity that it takes to do that. And some of it is our own fault. We always want to do better for our own kids. You always want to do. You don't want them to have to work that hard, right? They gave of their life and all the different things, like your father, working on Saturday. Now, especially since COVID, a lot of people don't work Saturdays. I mean, for people like your father, it was a 6-day, 7-day work week. And so you're giving of his life for you guys as his father did for him. And that is something that made us special in this country, if you ask me. It is the American dream. If you have a question for Žarko, 219-845-1100. The Serbian community is a proud community, and amongst many other things, they love to drink and eat, right? And when they're not working, and it exemplifies everything about this country, if you ask me. It really does. I am a big fan of Eastern European people, and it was almost like you were known. And my grandmother, who came here in 1935, used to refer to people by what they did or their race. I mean, and it wasn't a negative thing. They used to say the Greek guy on the corner, or a Serbian guy this, or so and so who made shoes, or and your family was they worked on our cars. But isn't that the term artisan? Like that's what you did, and you had to have a skill set. And I was almost a history professor. I'm enthralled by that. I'm enthralled that your grandfather could say, I'm leaving communism in Tito, and there's other people that have done this before me, and they've gone to East Chicago, Indiana, and they've started a church, and there's these things called the mills, and we can have a beautiful, beautiful life. I think about that every single time that I go to the church and I sit in the basement. And I talk to some of the old Serbian people that still remember that and say that when during its heyday, that it was 3 or 4 deep all the way around the bar, and that was the people's way. That was their center. That was their public square. Everything revolved around that. And your grandfather, your father, and now you and your brothers and sisters, many of those people are still coming to you. Do you ever have people that tell you stories like that when they come in and work for you?
Yeah.
Or you work for them, rather?
Yeah, we have the Canales family. That's 3 generations. Their grandpa knew my grandpa. The dad is a little younger than my dad was, and then his son is a couple grades younger, but played basketball with a family friend of ours. So we have 3 generations of customers, and then we get a lot of the people who used to work for my grandpa in the harbor still come to us, even when we don't need to work on their cars. They just come to stop by, and they'll always bring up how this used to be like a third place. We'd have coffee here. before you went out, you'd stop at the gas station, stuff like that. So definitely a sense of community is still there.
Now that you've gone through this entire process, you're listening to Jarko Kork, the unveiling of his family's basically business and basically sums up your life was part of the South Shore service, or what is it called? South Shore Poster? What is it?
South Shore Posters, yeah.
And Mike Chelich is the one that now, and Jimmy probably knows Mike pretty well. I think they're about the same age. And I was talking to you about this. My recollection of the Cheliches were they were divers, like swimming, diving, and I want to say they lived on Greenwood, and or the corner of either MacArthur or one of them, Elliott maybe. And you drive by and you'd see the diving board in the back with the trampoline. And I want to say that they were like really, really well-known divers. So he has now become an artist, and he drew that. So that's like a full circle for me in Northwest Indiana. I value that. I think we need to get back to that. Getting back to the basics, getting back to who we are and who we're going to become is what would be better for all of us. And I give you a lot of credit. You're 31 years old. You're working. And we talk about this. Sometimes your friends will call you and say, hey, you know, they're done because they worked 40 hours. I say that kind of, I'm giving them credit when I say 40 hours. Sometimes, Jarko, no disrespect to some of your friends, but I'll give them a few extra hours. I think the amount of hours they work, your generation is in the 30s. But I'll give them that. Not all. Your buddy Paulie works a lot of hours. Doesn't he?
Yes, he
Yo,
does.
Paulie! You got to throw a shout out to Paulie. So what do they say? I know this, but I'm going to throw it out to you. What do your friends say when they call you and you're like, I can't do it?
Not much anymore. They got used to it pretty quickly, but
because you did this early on. Most people so how long have you been putting in those? Your father's been gone for how long?
2 years on October 10th. But right when I got out of college in 2016, it's been 6 days a week since then.
Do you feel that you made the right decision?
Yes, absolutely.
Does it ever get heavy for you?
No. There's always stuff to do, but I mean, the poster's a good reminder, but all the things we just talked about for the last half hour, it kind of really puts it in perspective. One of the news outlets that covered the poster, they phrased it really well. Something about like cheerful neighbors taking pride in local life is what they said. And then so we depict something that was 60 years ago, I think, in the harbor or about that. And then the way that came to be was the Munster community. You know, we checked it off. All were customers, but it was someone who worked at Performing Arts Center. Painter was a customer. The Sign family, who are also customers, who are one of the owners of Byway Brewery, they catered the event, and then we all went over there after. So, I mean, it's like the message we were trying to get across through the poster, like what that poster symbolized, was the way that we did it, you know, this past year, and surprised my mom with it.
219-845-1100 if you want to have a question for Jarko. I know that you're very prideful in your ethnicity. I know you're very prideful in your family. I know you guys are very close. And I use you guys and tell people where your locations are.
We have one in Munster, Indiana on 9720 Franlin Parkway, right by across from the Ace Hardware, Danny Z's, and next to the Sitco. And then my brother operates the one in Lansing, Illinois on Ridge and Wentworth, 3565 Ridge Road, right across from the Walgreens and diagonal from the Aldi.
Is that the plan? You guys are going to keep both of them going?
Yes, that's the plan.
So with all that being, do you have an opportunity for social life?
Yeah, I go out here and there.
So I'm not trying to push you here. It's not the dating game, but you got to find someone and have the next generation. Don't
I know.
You?
Yeah, we got to get busy.
So, any last things that you want to say to those people that made this happen, and to your mother, and to those people that know you? You're a very well-known family. I find it refreshing that someone that's 31 years old with your skill set. There's a lot of people with skill sets, but the diligent work that you put in is not what you find of a 31-year-old. And I can only surmise that came from watching your father go to work every day. You don't have to tell someone something you have to show them. And leadership is in many different ways, and mentorship is many different ways. But watching your father go to work every day, watching him provide, watching him do what it did, it also takes a toll. You got to make sure that you don't overdo it. Being self-employed is a true statement, like you said. You can work any 65 hours a week that you want, and then all of a sudden 65 feels like 100. But I don't want to see that happen to you. So you got to make sure that you're training the right people. And as you get older and it's time for a family, like your father made those decisions. He could have made more money and not seen you guys. But along the way, you start making some changes and saying, I want to spend some time with the family, because before you know it, you're 60. And you only played so many soccer games, right? Then it's over. And Jarko was a good soccer player, by the way. Was supposed to stand up in my daughter's quinceañera, and you guys made an unlikely run. Is that being unfair when I said an unlikely run?
Maybe that year. It was a bit of a surprise to people. We weren't the favorites, but it was a fun year.
It was a fun year.
Yeah.
You look back at those, and now you're an adult, and you've done this. Any last things that you want to say to those people that made this happen? And you got to say something to your mother.
Yes. First, the painting is going to be shown at the Visitor Center tomorrow from 9:30 to 11:30. Michael Chelich, the artist, will be there. He's going to have other works there, including like children's books. He's done a lot of cool stuff, so that'll all be there, and he'll be there to sign stuff and kind of explain his process to you. But for last words, really,
To your mother?
Well, I'll go to you first. Thanks for having me on. We are really proud of what our family's built, and we're excited to keep it going. My mom used to always say it takes a village to raise a child, so with all three of us kids, we've always loved growing up here and the community we've built. And to my mom, she calls me her angry bird, but she makes all my days better, and I love you, Mom. I hope you're listening.
Oh, look at that. Look at that, kid. Enjoy time with your mother. And so, last question. How was it working with the people over at the Visitors Authority?
No, it was great. They made it seamless. We met there once to get approval on it and plan for it, and after that, we communicated through emails. They were touching base for everything. They put us in touch with Byway Brewery and Phil Sign to get everything going. But really, I mean, we didn't have to plan much. They took care of most of it.
We're a big fan of this program. I'm speaking of me on this program, the Dave Kusiak Show, of the Visitors Authority. I call it their SS. I call it alphabet soup. I know Phil doesn't like that, but or Brent Brazier, who comes on from time to time, is on the board. It's SS, CVS, or whatever. The bottom line is they try to get people here, and they've done a good job of it. And that building, many people drive by. There's a lot of good things that go on. So if you have an opportunity, please stop by tomorrow. And there's always something going on there. But it's a slice of us. We're showing people who we are when they come to a Visitors Authority. So I want to thank you for coming on. I love the story. I love what you guys do. I'm enthralled by people that start their own businesses. I'm enthralled by people who come over to this country that don't know how to speak the language. And I've been saying this, and I will continue to say this. This country, with all the warts that we have, with all the things we need to improve on, and we're the furthest thing from perfect, you name another country, and you brought it up, communism. You name another, it's communist. I mean, these people, I was at Fitness Point, and you hear people now just say summarily, without knowing their backside from a hole in the wall, okay, about socialism or communism. And there was a gentleman that was in the locker room, and he looks at me, he goes, these people have no idea what socialism or communism is. He said, and the reason why we're here, this guy told me, I didn't know if I didn't ask what country he was from, but he clearly had eaten a little bit of that. And that will allow people to get in either a boat or a plane and come over to this country not knowing the language, to then work hard to be able to buy their own gas station, service station, teach their son, and their son teaches their son. And before you know it, you have 2 or 3, and you guys have created a pretty good life for yourself with hard work, determination, and education. You guys were educated in the Munster Public Schools, and now you're doing what you do. I want to shake your hand and tell you, keep doing what you're doing. Congratulations. And you guys are the American dream.
Thank you.
With that, we'll take a short break. It's 7:54. When we come back, we'll open up the phone lines, and you can bitch and moan all day long, or you can go out there and do what you need to do. And this is me talking, not Jarko. Get off your dead ass and make your life better. And no one is a victim. You like that, don't you? I love how these people become victims. There is no victims. The Serbians victims? Were you a victim?
No.
No. All right. That's enough of me. All right, we'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll get back to it. You're listening to Dave Kusiak Show on WJOB, 1230 AM, 104.7 FM from the beautiful Strachan Van Til Food Market Studios. Welcome back, everyone. 8:05. What a refreshing segment. Jarko, Korik, and the Korik family. The American dream. And that's still here. That's happening as we speak. So when you hear what we should be doing in this country is teaching that, right? Why would we, what do you need to do to get to that? Whether it be working for your own business or working for someone else, but getting to where you need to get to. There's the story. Coming over here, not understanding the language, working hard, being given an opportunity by someone that likes you. But once you get that opportunity, working as hard as you can, having a goal, teaching it to the next generation, third generation there. I called in yesterday to promote this segment, and I talked about Jim Deedlow and the Deedlows and talking about people like myself. So we were at the fest last Friday, and I ran into the Flores' Dr. Flores, and we were started talking about politics somehow. His brother Mike was there as well. Most people know him from East Chicago. And we were just talking about this and the same topic. So his dad and owning a home and owning properties and teaching them about education and many of them becoming doctors and hardworking people in the community, and my family and what we were taught, and Jarko's family. Why do we not focus on that? Why aren't we promoting that? Why aren't we mentors for that? Instead of the victimhood, oh, this person can't do that. Well, let me tell you how you're not going to get where you need to be. Not being able to read and write. Having high schools where 1/3 of the people can't do the basics. But we're arguing about whether or not Jeffrey Epstein, the people were on his plane or this or that, or whether Trump's doing this. How does it affect your life? Education affects your life. Going out there and working hard affects your life. Being taught to work. Being taught to teach your kids. Being taught to understand when opportunity is in front of you. And that's what we need to be teaching these kids. The worst thing that you possibly can do is to tell your kid or loved one or yourself that you're a victim. There are victims in this world. But I dare say what happens to you after you've been victimized. Everybody has had things not go 100% the way that they want in their world. Do you think that I enjoyed my father dying at age 50? Do you think I enjoy the fact that my dad had his first heart attack at age 36? And that we went from him working 2 really good jobs to us living off $141 a week and understanding what a block of cheese looked like and tasted like? Did he tell us that we were victims? Or did he tell us that we all went and got jobs, including paper routes and everything else, and doing whatever you could do at the end of the 70s into the early 80s when it was a downturn of the steel industry? Was it the end of the world when the Deedlows company went belly up because of the late 70s and early 80s with interest rates going to 19%? And the banks calling in their loan? Mr. Deedlow told me that they had a $15 million nuclear plant that they had won the bid for in Florida. And the banks pulling their credit and throwing their company into bankruptcy. And then his wife dying of cancer. With all that going on, did Jimmy throw his cards in? Was he a victim? Or did he go to the Board of Trade and learn how to lose his money twice and figure out how to make a living to buy this station? Is that not the American dream? It exists. It's out there for you. If until the day I die, I will promote that. This is the greatest country in the world. With all of the warts that we have, with everything else. And all I hear is bitching, 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 bitching. This person's preventing me from doing this. This person's preventing me from doing this. The only person that's preventing you from doing something is yourself. And I will continuously make sure that my kids understand that and my 20-month-old grandson. Much is given, but much is expected. I am sticking around to see that kid grow up. 219-845-1100. It is awe-inspiring to me that people do this. It is awe-inspiring. And so the story of the day is that the FBI, former director of the FBI, has been indicted. The story of the day is that the Trump administration is going after political, it's the retribution tour. Are we okay with that? Is it okay to go after your political adversaries? Because that's what is happening. And I throw this out to those people that are in charge right now. You better be ready, because what ends up happening on one day against someone, the same people will use that against you. And that's why sometimes when you're in charge and you can do something doesn't mean that you should do something. Did you hear that, Lynette? Yep. Just because you can do something doesn't mean that you should do something. And I needed last weekend. Last weekend reinvigorated my belief in this country as we celebrated Hispanics, Mexican Independence Day, a full park at Central Park, the largest crowd of the year, listening to mariachis and listening to Latin Satin Soul, listening to Bright Star belt it out, seeing all these people, some that hadn't seen each other in a while, the camaraderie, the food, the music, that's who we are. And then being able to go to the church that I was baptized in, the church that I was married in, the church that my grandmother came to in 1935, the church and the balcony that my Polish grandmother sung in the Polish choir, to the places where, and to take my grandson there. And it was the same weekend we were celebrating my wife's birthday, and now we're celebrating my mother-in-law's birthday today. Happy birthday, Becky Lemos. I'm like a pig dipped in crap. I couldn't be happier. It is the American dream. 219-845-1100. Also some big news that's gone on if we have to get to it. Let's talk about...
We do have 219 news, by the way.
Let's do 219 news, and then let's open up the phone lines. Do we have an 8:30 today? We don't know.
No.
Okay, we'll go till 9 o'clock, and then I have to go to work. So let's play the 219 news, and some of those stories. I want to get into this NIPSCO story because it's going to affect you. They've been given the okay to, I don't know if this is part of the news, but they've been given the okay to spin off part of their business for the data centers that will be coming in. I was driving yesterday. I drove all the way to Valpo. It's very interesting as you're starting to see people signs say no data centers. I'll get into that in a second. So, Lynette, go ahead and play the 219 news now.
219 News Now is brought to you by the South Shore Line and by Strachan Van Til, making lives easier for 95 years.
I'm Andrew Garcia, and this is your 219 News Now. The Indiana Court of Appeals has upheld the murder conviction of Trinidad Cervantes for a 2023 road rage shooting in Hammond that resulted in the death of Rajesh Bhagwandeen. Cervantes, sentenced to 59 years in prison, unsuccessfully argued self-defense, claiming trial errors including faulty jury instructions and inappropriate witness questions. Despite his appeals, the court concluded that Cervantes received a fair trial with no basis for reversal, and his earliest possible release date pending good behavior is in 2067. The St. John Town Council has faced public backlash over a proposed annexation ordinance for a 168-acre parcel owned by RBCP Investments, with Donald Trump Jr. among the project backers. The ordinance aims to facilitate a housing development with 982 units, sparking concerns about water usage and infrastructure. The legality of the annexation is in question, as Indiana law typically does not allow annexation of non-contiguous areas without specific criteria being met, which may pose a hurdle for the project moving forward. Now we'll look at your weekend weather presented by NIPSCO.
Now, time for your 219 forecast. Sponsored by NIPSCO, I'm meteorologist Zoe Mintz, and we're looking at a gorgeous last weekend in September all across northwest Indiana. Friday afternoon, those high temperatures will be near 80 degrees. Sunny skies. In fact, there might not be a single cloud out there. Nice and calm winds. By Saturday, it's going to be a degree or two warmer. Still sitting in the low 80s, though. Still sunny skies. Still nice and calm winds. And by Sunday, it's going to be a rinse and repeat of Saturday, maybe a degree cooler, but still mostly sunny, low 80s, calm winds, a little bit cooler if you maybe want to head on over to the lake, a little bit warmer in downtown Chicago. But either way, gorgeous weather. Whatever plans you have, you should be doing them outside.
And in sports, Ileana Christian meets Griffith on the boys' soccer fields. Here's a look at the action from that game.
5 assists on the year for Terpstra to go along with 7 scored. Low to the near post. This got through a Griffith defender and is in for the goal. Driven forward. Here's a run. Vikings are in business. The shot and the goal on the breakout counterplay. That is Terpstra. Williams again to do the honors. Had it up in the 6. Steele punches it away. It's still live and in. Balderos trying to get a look at this backup keeper. He scored it. 17th of the year for Emmanuel Balderos. So he'll hold up his run. 5 seconds to go. And that is going to do it. The horn sounds. We have a 5-1 victory for the Ileana Christian Vikings over the Griffith Panthers.
To read up on more local news and headlines, visit jedtv.com and nwy.com. I'm Andrew Garcia, and this has been your 219 News Now.
Welcome back, everybody. You're listening to Dave Kusiak Show 816. This was screenshotted to me. Thank you, Mark. Let me read. NIPSCO's plan to create a subsidiary to generate electricity to serve data centers at a time when tech giants are investing billions of dollars to build the technical infrastructure needed for the rising use of artificial intelligence. NIPSCO received permission to create a spin-off business called GenCo that will negotiate electricity rates directly with data center customers and build and own the electricity generating infrastructure in a process the company says will streamline its ability to serve the large load customers without needing to go through the traditional process of state approval through a traditional public hearing process. Regulatory process, whenever we would add a customer, we would look at what that load requirement is, and we would go through the regulatory process to add that additional capacity to our system. He said, when we do that, when we get that approval, ultimately all of our customers become responsible for that capacity, not just the new capacity that comes onto the system. But with the anticipated large load customers, NIPSCO and its parent company, NiSource, decided to try to find a way to keep its traditional customer base harmless in regard to the cost of bringing the large load customers in. I want to try to have Rick Klinsky on and talk about this. This is an enormous thing. I know people just got their upgrades, their increases in NIPSCO. One would argue, and I was driving yesterday, Lynette. I took the back route to go to Valpo. There's a lot of signs throughout the Maryville and Valpo area. It says no data centers. So all these people, there's a term called NIMBY, not in my backyard is what it stands for. So most people stream, correct? This whole station is almost streaming now, right? Everything with sports, all this whole thing. So it's easy to sit and say we're going to stream. It's easy for everyone to say they're streaming, but where does the electricity come from? Where does the bandwidth, where does all that stuff? You have to have data centers, right? So where are these things going to be built? It's like people that use energy all the time. I want to use gas, right? I got to put gas in my car. Or I need electricity for my home. I need heat for my home. But I don't want to live right next door to where they're at. Right? I want to be able to use all the benefits, but I don't want those data centers in my backyard. I just want to be able to I want my phone. This is a typical thing that liberals and progressives do. Wait, no, we don't want that by us. But you want your phone, right? Oh, of course. I'm streaming. I want to be able to watch Netflix or whatever it is that I do when I'm on the plane or whatever it is that I do. Yeah, I know, but to do that, we need data centers. Well, yeah, but the data centers, we're not putting that in my backyard. It was like the same thing, like let's put the steel mills in the backyards of the people. They have to live where the pollution is. I don't want to live where the pollution is. I want to work in the mill, and I want to jump on Klein Avenue. I want to drive as far south as I possibly can to get away from that. I want to be able to use the gas that's refined at the refinery, but I don't want to live right next to the refinery. Why would I want to do that? I got to deal with all the ramifications of living next to a refinery. That's for other people to do. I get the benefit of what they make, but I don't want the negative. That's for other people. And that's what you see in the Valparaiso area, in the Maryville area. No data centers. Okay, if there's no data centers where you live, then should you be able to stream? That's like the same thing with some people in Crown Point that call in. I don't want to pay to deal with my water, but you people that live next to the river get my water and you deal with it because I don't want to do that. I mean, the hypocrisy is unbelievable. So now, are they getting a better deal? Here's one scenario. Our price increase is helping to pay for that business so that they can give better rates to big companies that are building data centers. Is that a possibility? I don't know. Do you feel comfortable with that? So those that can least afford are paying for those who are making the most? Are we helping out all those big tech businesses that are worth billions of dollars? 219-845-1100. Do we have anybody on the line? Let's go to the phone lines. Good morning. You're live in the air.
What's up, Coos?
I'm trying to make it, brother.
You know, my OCD is rough listening to you. And that's not a negative comment towards you. It's just you bring up so many excellent topics that I want to comment on. By the time I get on the phone, it's on to something else. But my mind works just like your mind works. I'm 10 steps ahead of, the average person, bro. But earlier in the day, man, you were talking about defunding the police. And Dave from Gary called up and he said quite accurately what they were doing in Gary. But this is what happens in talk radio. That's all true. But see, Coos, those of us who travel and go to other states and or countries, defund the police is real nationwide. So just because in your particular city or town or state it's not really happening, he's saying, well, the community wants this and that and the other. I was in Austin back a few months ago. They're down 300 to 400 police officers at one time.
Who wants to be a police officer now, Mike?
Right.
They've defunded the police by vilifying the position. It used to be, when I grew up, that we knew who the policemen were, and, we had respect for them. I remember when they used to come to our schools, and it was they used to bring Ike the Bike in,
right,
and Officer Friendly. It was Officer Kennedy, who lived around the corner from me, right in between. So it's funny. He lived on Jefferson. Jimmy lived on Madison. You heard the weather lady, her family, the Minces, her dad lived on the corner of Broadmoor, and then I lived on Monroe. So all within a 5-minute walk, all of those people lived there, and those were all people that knew each other, respected each other. We respected it. When did it become that we're supposed to disrespect the police? So if someone tries to attempt to break into my house or something's going on and I call 911 and the police come, we want them to come, right? We want them to protect us.
Right.
But we don't want to give them the respect that they deserve. And
right.
Jimmy, come on in here. I want to talk to you about what you talked about yesterday with these facilities, because this is a good point that I want to bring up. He was bringing up about us building these facilities, and I'm going to take a little bit of the opposite side of Jim, and we're seeing this with the haves and the have-nots. So if you drive around, and I drive around for a living, we look at these universities that are getting built, okay, and they're called high schools. And so, but this is my brain. It bounces from thing to thing. But let's just about the police. You mean to tell me that you think that it's a good thing for Chicago to have less police officers?
No.
The mayor does.
I know he does. But the thing is, because we can't bring that up because someone will get diverted in conversation and say, in my community, it's not happening. In my opinion, this is exactly why elections have consequences, not just in your hometown. So if I tell you nationwide, defund the police is real, and you'll come back to me, but in my community, it's not real. And I understand that. But again, going back to my economics perspective of it, that on a micro level, you're correct.
So, Mike, in Munster, this last election a couple years ago, the Republicans won by 900 votes. They ran on public safety. Okay?
Yes.
Do you know that the following year that the Democrats won overwhelmingly in the presidential race?
Yes.
So just to let you know, the people of Munster looked at the platform, not the party, and by 900 votes voted for the Republicans in a complete sweep, and then the following year voted nationally Democratic.
Correct.
Think about that. So tell me that it's not the policy.
It's policy. But see, that's not sexy, Coos. You get sidetracked. I'm talking specifically when you try to debate ideas, okay? I understand. I could talk to you on a bar stool. I got it. But it gets diverted if you bring it up on public forums such as this, because you mentioned the victims. We're not a victim. I concur. But I guarantee you 100 to 1 to turn that into a victim when he was talking to that young man, that Serbian young man whose family is a success from the harbors. I guarantee you it would have evolved to, oh yeah, my ethnic background, we suffered more than your ethnic background. And instead of looking at the positive,
everybody gets kicked around, Mike.
Right.
I mean, you didn't get kicked around when you came in here, D-Lo? You didn't get kicked around when you guys were one of the earlier settlers, the Germans and the Dutch.
I tried to do it, though,
okay, but so I say this to my youngest daughter, and I say this to the youngest people. It sucks being at the bottom of the hill. I was at the bottom of the hill when the Didos and the Kusiaks in the neighborhood. I was the youngest kid out of all I was at the bottom of the hill. Guess what? It sucked.
Right.
And then someone's always at the bottom of the hill.
Right.
And
but
so
the thing is,
what are you going to do, cry like a little baby?
But some individuals, Coos, do not want to move on. I'm still hearing about 1968 in Gary. But I got to constantly
What happened in 1968 in Gary? I am a pragmatic person, and I have to be. And Mike, I'll let you go. Thank you very much. I get you, man. At the end of the day, you are based on what your performance is. Okay? You owned a construction company, Jimmy Dilo. Your family did. At the end of every project, you either got paid or you didn't based on what you did. Okay? And at the end of the day, in 1968, there was an election. Was Gary better in 72 than it was in 68? Was Gary better in 76 than it was in 72? Was Gary better in 80 than it was in 76? Okay? At the end of every project that I do, people either say you did what you were supposed to and I'm going to pay you, or you didn't and you need to redo this. And
so,
the same thing
I was walking out there doing my work and I got I'm preparing for a meeting. What is it you wanted to talk about?
I wanted to talk to you about I listened. I'm in and out of my car, and I didn't catch the whole thing. But I take a little bit of the one guy that calls in, Dave's. Didn't hear the whole thing, so I can't speak to the whole thing. What I think is a better way to take his side is this, because I talk to seniors every day, and they've said this to me, and this is why they didn't vote for the referendum in Hammond. And I called it because every single one of my customers were against the referendum in Hammond. And you know what some of them said to me? It's not my job to build new football stadiums and for Munster or Crown Point or Hammond to compete with Valparaiso or this or that for us to be the winningest football team in the area. It's not. And so it's our job. So you did pretty well at Munster, didn't you?
What?
No, I'm asking
40
you.
years ago?
Okay, yeah, you did pretty well. So I'll give you a perfect example. I'm driving down in front of Munster when they're redoing the baseball field. And I see Fence Masters is doing the job, the fence. So I call Steve Johnson, and I said, you must be really proud. He goes, what are you talking about? I said, you guys are doing the fence of where you played baseball. He said, I'm kind of retired now. He said, but what are you saying? I said, well, you guys got the fence job. They're redoing the baseball field and all that. He goes, that's not where I played baseball. He said in 1976, our baseball field was what was the 13-year-old field when I played, with no fence. It was at Munster Community Park, and then you played in what was the new baseball field at the time. My brother played in 84 at that baseball field, and I went to your games in 1980 to what was kind of a new football field. Were you guys okay with that? My point is, I think people should have nice stuff. I think Bishop Knoll's 1,000 times better since they redid that football field. We played in the field house, which was pretty crappy. It's the same field house. My point is, I understand your point. You're saying people deserve nice things. But what this is doing is it's creating the haves and the have-nots. And if you look at your games, all you have to do, and I look at it every week, I look at the scores. There's only 1 or 2 games that are within 14 points. Because you either have a program or you don't. And you have a program because you have facilities or you don't. If you're in Crown Point, you have the money to go get Craig Bazia. If you're in Crown Point, you have the ability to build 2 or 3. It's a college. So are you telling me that Hammond Central can play against Crown Point? Are you telling me they don't have and I understand your point that people have been looking at moving into communities that have been winning forever. There are people that moved into the Hobart Bricky community because Don Hall and the Hobart Brickies ran the football area. There's people that move into an area because someone's winning and they want to be a part of it. But I'm just saying that when you're talking to seniors, and I talk to them all the time, they're not, just like Dave, they're not 100% into what you're talking about. If you talk to the people of Munster and you say, because Munster just recently was given a report card that they were getting A's and everything except their facilities. I think they actually got like a D+. And so they decided, we're going to go ahead and do this, okay? And this comes from someone that's supported every single referendum that there is. And I supported the Hammond referendum, and it failed. And guess what happened after it failed? I got sent a $3,000 check from Mike Mellon and his group out of my escrow because I was paying on one building $3,000 additionally just for the schools. So if you're talking to the regular people like Dave, you're going to find out that at least 50% of the people don't want to pay for that. They want to pay for what's considered a standard football field, a standard basketball facility, but they're not wanting to get involved with this race to have the nicest facilities just so they could say that their team's number one. They're not. Because just as many people that love sports may say, well, what about my kid that's in the band? Or what about my kid that's in theater? Should my kid have the nicest auditorium because they're in theater? That's the only thing that I'm bringing up, that it's more than just one side when it comes to that.
Are you asking me a question?
Yeah, I'm asking you a question because that's what
point is here. Well, I mean, I think what I've seen over the years is that there is a general migration of 2 major forces that are happening. And one is that the state is trying to give less and less money to public education, and that's why we're in the bottom 10% of education in America in Indiana on the elementary school level. and on the high school level. And, you basically get what you pay for in terms of education. And I get the idea of getting older and saying, well, I don't want to pay for the kids, or I don't want to, I don't want them to have a.
They didn't say they don't want to pay at all.
So what you're, I
it's
asked
not all
the guy
or none. It's not all or none.
So I asked the kid, I'm like, I'm like, all right, so what are you saying you want? He was like arguing for poor facilities. And I'm like, okay.
And I'm not arguing for poor
well,
facilities.
then, how do you, if the standard is to knock down a 100-year-old high school, what are you going to build instead?
I think the standard is so.
So what would you do if you're going to say Hammond High School would cost, I thought it was like $80 million to redo it and bring up all the code and everything, or it was like 110 or something like that to redo the whole thing.
So let me ask
what
you a question.
Do? Well,
they
just
redid
do the 80.
They redid Hammond High.
Hammond Central.
They did. Now it's Hammond Central. They gave him a new field. Now we have enough years. Has their test scores improved?
So
no,
how are those related?
Well, you were just saying that facilities and everything and how much money you give is going to be paramount
no,
to the end result.
You said to build it to the standard.
Yeah, the standard
Okay,
is,
what's the standard right now?
Well, by definition, what is a standard?
I mean, are they supposed to not build a football field?
No, I didn't see. It's not all or none.
Okay, but I mean, I think what has really happened in general is what you're plugging into is an attitude of, we don't really want to pay for education in general, and it is hurting the education, especially in the urban areas where it is hard to find people to teach. And it is not just the facilities. I mean, the facilities, quite frankly, are kind of low on the spending. The spending is in the operations and in the
I agree.
teachers.
I
and
agree
all
with
that.
you on that.
And so
we don't pay our teachers enough.
Once the attitude started, like teachers are lazy and they give 3 months off, and we shouldn't have to pay. I think what also happens is as people move into their latter years, then they're like, well, it doesn't bother me. I don't care anymore. And so it's really a short-sighted thinking, because you brought up Munster, and why is Munster part of the reason Munster maintains such a high level of property values?
It's their education.
Is the school system. But then if you're like, I'm going to be on a fixed income, well, I don't really care about the schools. But if I don't care about the schools, then the house I live in is worth less.
Well,
so I mean, you got
that really hasn't happened because they've passed both referendums, and I would suggest that they will continue to pass referendums. I'm going to have Larry Veracco on here in the coming weeks.
It's not as specific. It is the general theory of what's going on. Is like if it really is proven if your school system's better, then your house is worth more. But if you don't want to pay for a better school system, then your house will be worth less.
I'm just telling you what people tell me. I'm saying I have voted for every referendum where I've lived and where my business is.
It's
no,
not
but
about
I'm saying, what do you say?
referendums.
But it is though, because that's what the state has come up with. The state and 70% of Hoosiers voted to put the 1, 2, 3 in the property tax caps into our Constitution. 70%.
I understand the specifics. I don't even know about that and understand.
But you have to be able to have it.
But I'm just talking about a general attitude toward public education. And in my mind, over time, the general attitude toward public education of kind of animosity towards it that was started, in the 2000s, I think is hurting Indiana. Sure, we can cut and have less taxes and less services and, less roads, maintenance and all that. I understand all of that and cut all the fat out of the government. But when it comes to the schools, that's your investment. That's your investment. And if you're going to invest in your schools, then you're going to raise the school. And you're not going to have – Indiana rates awful in so many different categories. And to me, it all boils down to going back to the schools.
So I heard you say that it's about 30%. It's actually in some cases 100%. People that teach in Illinois make 100% more in Illinois than they do in Indiana.
Well, I was being nice. I know that if you go right
I
here
know
to
people that pay
Lansing,
$1.25 and $1.50, $1.25 to $1.50, and they would be lucky to make 65 in Indiana.
So if you think about that, it's not that big of a deal in Indianapolis, because if you want to be a teacher, you can't go across the state line from Indianapolis. It's not that big a deal in Fort Wayne. They don't have schools.
Well, they don't have as easier option.
Yeah, they don't have an option. Maybe in
So
like
what would you
New
say if they
Albany
go
or
make the money over there, which a lot of people do,
And we know-
and then they drive over here to pay the low taxes?
That's a great idea.
Well,
I'm saying as a person that has to support your family, and that is exactly what I did for 20 years, is I went up to the Board of Trade, made some decent cash, and came down here and lived like a pauper. I mean, it was like, and that was kind of how I liked to live then and kind of how I like to live now.
I understand this whole thing because I've been involved with it. We sent our kids to the private schools and public. You said, yours was a mix. But we both supported giving to the referendum, even though we didn't use I didn't use the schools at all. But I am a 100% believer in what you said, that my property at 8414 Northcott was completely based off two things: the school city and how safe it was to live in Munster. So I openly on the air was in favor of the referendum in Hammond. Okay? I just know that talking with people, I called it. There was not one single customer, not one.
Oh, I'm not relating to the referendum, and I don't.
But you can't pay for those things you're talking about.
That is somebody else's.
No,
that's
I know,
somebody else's argument.
But Jim, you
when
can't have those.
When a guy calls up and he's arguing for poor facilities, which is what he was doing, and I'm like, okay, I don't want to pay money. Nobody wants to pay taxes. But you got to look at the long term if you do not invest in your public education. And there, for whatever reason, there is an anti-public education attitude in Indiana that I believe, we're supposed to be rated such a high area to do business because of the low taxes. And I'm all for that.
I'll tell you why we are.
But we are such a where are those high-level workers coming from?
I'll tell you one of the reasons.
Else.
One of the reasons why we are business friendly is what's going on with the SNPSCO. So we just got a rate increase, and you want us to believe that the rate increase is not tied in to GenCo, which will then give tremendous rates to billionaires. I'm just so we're business friendly. One would ask. I understand what you're saying because we're ranked. It's the same thing that's going on with Oklahoma right now. They're ranked 50th. But why is everyone from Illinois moving here if we have such poor public schools?
They're only moving to what you said in the beginning, which is that we have the haves and the have-nots, and you can move in. Hanover Central is one of our affiliates. They have great athletic director. They got Ryan Bridges running thing. They got great coaches. They got great teachers. They just built a multi-million-dollar career center. It is up and coming. Cedar Lake is a great community. Crown Point is a great community to go into. I don't want to say Valpo so much because of the way they do things in Porter County, but you could even move into Highland. Is a great community with a have mentality. But you go to other places and you go into, say, River Forest or Lake Station or some, they don't have that base. So they are in the have-not category.
And so what I'm saying, though, is because of the way that the 1, 2, 3 came in, and you said you don't want to really worry so much about it, but you have to because that's the funding mechanism.
It has to start with an attitude.
Of course. And I agree with you. I'm just simply telling you that there are a group of people that aren't in the I'm rooting for poor facilities or I'm rooting for the Taj Mahal. They're in the center. They're saying, wait a second, I'm willing to make sure my kids have everything that they need to succeed, but I'm not in saying that I'm doing this. And you could see it. That's where the coaches move to. The coaches move. Well, you think Crown Point won 3 sectionals in a row under Kevin Enright for the first time in a very long time. Then they had the COVID year. They get knocked out the first year. After winning 3 in a row, they felt they could have done better, and they went and got buzz. And they went and put all this money in. There are people in Crown Point that are a little bit like, oh, okay. They're a little bit different because they also had the beauty of having one of the richest families in the history of Indiana.
I would just say about that, about athletics, and I bring this up, is that you have 2 competing things going on right now. Is that you have the state legislature saying we're going to give you tons less money into each school district, right?
And that's going to continue to happen. This SB1,
and not only that, you're going to have tons less money going into the municipalities. And so really what that means is less cops and less firemen.
It means forced consolidation.
Well, whatever it means in the short term, it means if you were going to hire 10 cops, well, maybe you're going to hire 5. All right. That's one thing there. But if you go into the schools, they did 2 things. They said, all right, we're going to less money into the schools. But at the same time, you have to allow athletes or non-athletes to transfer at any time.
I don't think that's going to be as big a deal as you think because –
Not yet.
No, I know, but I'm just saying that I said this before when it goes all the way back to when Kenny Harris wanted to leave. How many of those moves did the team actually win?
No,
I'm just saying that I understand.
That's not the point. Is that over time you're going to have to decide whether you want to invest in your high schools in your local areas, and the state is making it so that you have to come up with the money out of that school district. Yeah, and
now the civil city is too, because they're forcing, and the mayor of Hammond already said. That you're going to have a Lake County option income tax.
You're going to have an income tax.
Not Lake County. It's going to be
Hammond.
It's going to be Hammond.
To live in Hammond, you're going to have to pay.
And I think every community, you're going to see Munster do the same thing.
Yeah, you're going to have an income tax, but you're still lagging with all of the schools. So, if you just look at athletics, so we said a couple of years ago, well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to start toward doing it like they do in college. And this was, we got the Big Ten network people working there. They came back and said, here's how the model works. It might take a few years, but you could do the model here where you have to start thinking about the athletics actually bringing in money rather than costing money.
Is it bringing money in?
Small. But
yes. I'm talking about these places.
There are huge companies around here that are supporting this.
But I also listened to John Doherty say that the Powers is not paying for someone to play football at Munster. You're going to see, and you've already seen this. This goes back to my conversations with Eddie Rhea that's been gone for 10 years. The realignment of the conferences had everything to do with money. You couldn't, Munster couldn't play Hammond in tennis because I'm just saying but that's people coming to the game, and it's the same thing. You have to have money to do it. So
go back to that comment about Doherty. All right, so you're right. These businesses, big businesses, they don't want to give money directly to a school just as a donation, and those days are gone. BP's going to give $100,000 to the Whiting Athletic Department. No, that just doesn't happen, and none of the businesses that are supported, like you and me, that we're scrapping every day, all they want is ROI. Yeah. It's I'll give money toward that, but you have to provide them. You have to provide some results.
Yeah, you could give it to the red and white, or the red and white, or the blue and gold.
It doesn't matter. If you give it directly, that's kind of a donation. So what we found is that if you go in and you put the games on TV, and then you put them on for free, people watch them. And since people are watching them, then the business gets a ROI on it, and then you can take some of that money and give it back to the school.
It's a changing market.
It's a changing market, but you have to start with the idea that high school people are good people, and I want to support them.
I agree with you, but I was just trying to just simply state this, and I want to make sure people understand. I have voted for every single referendum where my business is, supported it on the radio in Hammond, and where I lived for everyone, and I will continue to. I live in Cherville, and I will support that, okay? While I sent my kids to a private school. That's how much I believe in public education. But I'm just simply stating that it's not an all or none. I think there's a group of people that want to be in the middle. They don't want poor facilities, but they don't want to be in an arms race.
I think everybody's there. What's wrong with being there? I mean, I don't know what we're arguing about.
No, we're not arguing. I'm having a discussion. I'm saying that you were saying that I'm not speaking for Dave. That's his business.
No, the guy who called in was like, I went to school and I did it this way and we didn't have air conditioning. I go, okay.
We never had air conditioning either.
Are you arguing that we should downgrade some of the facilities or what?
Well, you went to 8 years of no air conditioning. I went to 12 years of no air conditioning.
I understand that, but look at St. Thomas More right now. What if they didn't have air conditioning?
They probably would have half the students they have.
Exactly.
Because it's become standard. Back when we went, I remember the teachers opening the windows and shutting the lights off and saying, "Put your head down," because it was 100 degrees in the room at 1 o'clock on May 13th or May 20th. The point is this: if you look at the test, if you look at the scores every weekend, which I do, I make it a point, especially in football because you need more people. Basketball's not as much because you need 5 people or 7. Look over the first 6 weeks of this year. I think this is week 6. There are some weeks where there's only 1 or 2 games that the spread is within 14 points.
Oh, yeah. We
so what this
that.
is doing is making – we can agree on this. All of what's happened with the 1, 2, 3 and the referendums and people moving south is making the divide between the haves and the have-nots greater. And my thesis is that's bad for the greater good.
I think we're a good. I think I agree with that.
And I just don't see a change to that.
The deeper issue that I've never quite understood, and it, to some extent has been part of the mission. And Sam and Peter just presented.
Did they win? When's the?
No, they didn't win the $1 million.
Did we get some?
They were in the top 5 of sports tech companies.
Do we get some money?
And do you know why they chose Sam and Peter and Jed TV Sports Network? We have certainly as Lynette is learning, is one of the most difficult, complex technological systems of any local media in America, and it allows us to do certain things that you can't do elsewhere. But the thing that they told Sam and Peter, the reason that we want you guys here is that you are concerned, you have a mission of helping local high schools and local businesses come together. And so that was the reasoning, and they got
Can I leave you with this, and we'll talk about this next time? Listen, I'm going to leave you with this. We'll talk about this the next time. I had to go to Valpo yesterday, so I took the back routes. Guess what's so rich about what you're saying? Many of those communities that you're talking about that have the newest, nicest facilities, that want to be on TV, that want to stream, guess what's the signs in their yards say? No data center. So again, you need the data centers, right? Because everyone's streaming and they love their phone, they love streaming, they love Netflix, they love all the stuff they do. But isn't that just grand that they say, I want the benefit of streaming and updated technology and everything else, but the facilities that are necessary to make that happen will be in someone else's backyard.
So those data centers are mostly for AI, just so you know.
Okay, but it's also for streaming.
It's also for streaming. And so, we went to another conference like 2 weeks ago there all week. I had to be there, and I was able to follow that story on the southeast side of Indianapolis. They want to put this massive data center. And you know how you get to watch the news at night?
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there watching the news every night, and every night it was just protests against this data center on the south side of Indianapolis.
Yeah, of course.
And I'm like, what the hell is going on? And I just saw yesterday they just squashed it. Yeah, it was you know how they do that government down there where it's like the whole county.
It's Unigov.
Yeah, well, it was in that county, but it wasn't in the city of Indianapolis. It was kind of in a rural area to the southeast side of the city, which is kind of the poorer side of that city. And I was like, I wonder what's going to happen with this. So I ran in. I went to the beach, when I got back. And Alexis and I are walking, and I run into Tom Dockich. And I'm like, Doc, what's going on? They put this one up here on a server farm right up where the old ComEd plant used to be. And he's like, these issues are so complex right now. I go, well, I'd love to sort through them because I don't know if data centers are good or bad.
And we had him on, and we'll have him on again. With that, we got to go. With this, if you like what you hear, 5 days a week here until further notice, this is the kind of conversation we have. And then because of all the streaming, you can watch about 6 different games tonight, and we'll see how all this is unfolding in your very eyes, and we'll keep you abreast of it. Stick around for award-winning Veterans Views. And happy birthday to my mother-in-law, Becky Lemos. We are honored to have 4 generations of people, 4 generations of our family, from 20 months to 86, to celebrate that tonight. Don't forget, this is a sponsored program, Kusiak Construction, 219-923-3007. You can give us a call. I may be one of 4 smiling faces that come out to look at your work. If you're looking at getting a project done before the end of the year, we have time. And then as winter comes, we go inside and we do inside work. So, Lynette, thank you very much for what you've done. Thanks to Jarko Korik and his family for being our guest this week. That's turned into a podcast. Future programs, Larry Veracco, thanks to Dave Spike, Dave Jaruzelski. We're going to be setting that up. He's going to talk to you about some of the SB1 and the lack of money that will be coming into the school system. And this is the type of conversation that we have. We'll see if it's Friday. It's the Dave Kusiak Show. We'll see you next week because you're listening to WJOB 1230 AM 104.7 FM from the beautiful Strachan Van Til Food Market Studios.